Hello everyone, on this episode of Common Thread, Ladies' Nights. Developed by Rogue Entertainment and published by Electronic Arts for Windows PCs in the year 2000, American McGee's Alice is a third-person action game based loosely on the Alice in Wonderland novels. In a reimagined and more darker story than presented in the original Lewis Carroll books, you will play as Alice, who is now locked in an asylum from the trauma caused by witnessing the death of her parents. During a nightmare, Alice is contacted by someone from Wonderland and asked once again to return and save it from the Red Queen. After the jump to Wonderland from the asylum, Alice is greeted by both the White Rabbit, who is still always in a hurry, and the Cheshire Cat, who has seen much better days. The White Rabbit is just a plot device to help the story along, while the Cheshire Cat will give you tips, both as a story character or, with the press of a key, a hint giver if and when you get stuck. Some characters will talk to Alice about the events happening in Wonderland, filling in story elements and giving additional advice to move forward in game progress, while other story characters, like Tweedledee and Tweedledum or the Mad Hatter, will try to stop Alice by any means necessary. Controlling Alice with a keyboard and mouse is easy, as she has a very light-on-her-feet feel. Her response to input is quick and snappy, and this is a good thing, as during some surprise gaming moments, being able to turn and run will save your life. Controlling Alice as she floats on steam vents, strafes while attacking enemies, swings from vines, and swims feels natural, like you are part of the action. That is, until you need to land a tricky jump, or worse, a tricky jump while trying to grab an edge. Getting the worst out of the way first, there are stages where jumping is probably 95% of the stage's challenge, where you will need to up your patience while slowing down your pacing. Some stages are run and gun, while other later stages are also run and gun, but with the added challenge of a maze element. A few simple puzzles and balancing act challenges are tossed in every so often, with some unique boss fights also making it into the mix. Weapons all draw power from Alice's strength of will bar and range from easy to use but very draining to hard to use and very draining, as most of the weapons eat at the bar like it's a free never-ending resource. The starting Vorpal Blade attacks will be the most useful and used actions in your journey, because only near the end of the game, when you receive the Eye Staff, does the balance of damage done to power used become bearable. Some weapons are unforgiving in their executions, like the Demonic Dice, that will summon a demonic creature to fight for you, or worse, fight against you if you're the only one around. Occasionally Alice will find Rage Cubes, giving her near invincibility, stronger attack damage, and a new but only momentary look. At first look, the visuals of this almost 20-year-old OpenGL 1.2 based game look slightly blocky and blurry, but now somehow seem to add to the eerie art styling. The almost emotionless look of some of the characters add to the sadness of a world in need of saving. Story characters and NPCs mostly look like they belong in the same fantasy world, with only a handful of odd ones that stick out, like Mock Turtle or the Queen's final forms. And there are a few nightmare fuel moments that will make your sleep paralysis demon go on vacation. Some stages can be busy with background eye candy that is visually amazing, but not too overly distracting, allowing you to focus on more complex foreground tasks. Other stages, like the Pale Realm, are visually impressive with just the use of a few colors, while stages like the Herbaceous Border are the standard outdoors underground areas seen before in other games. The game's audio has easily stood the test of time, with great voice acting that fits the characters attached to them and sound effects that are believably being made by their assigned objects.
There's no lock, but it won't open. It's stuck.
Treat it like a Chinese box or a stubborn lid. A tap in the right spot might do the trick.
The background music is not overwhelming or overly busy, and has nice details and structure that can be heard if you stop and listen for a few moments. While a few technical issues do show up during gameplay, like lines and static pictures, and for some odd reason, even when ran off a solid-state drive, long loading times during stage changes, nothing game-breaking happened during our playthrough. You are allowed multiple save states anytime and anywhere to inch your way to the end of the game, which is especially helpful if you have to take a break for real-life events. American McGee's Alice is not a perfect game, but is still fun, if you can find a standalone copy for PC. An updated version with better graphics and a few minor changes is available with some releases of its sequel, Alice: Madness Returns, on PC and Xbox One. We give American McGee's Alice an 8 out of 10. Developed by InSpace and published in 2000 for the Sony PlayStation by THQ, Danger Girl is a third-person action shooter based on the comic books first published by Image Comics in the very late 1990s. In Danger Girl, you play as one of the many women who make up the team called Danger Girl, a group of agents trained to fight off and stop terrorist organizations around the world. The Hammer, a terrorist organization back on the rise, is the usual World War II Nazi-style substitute bad guys seen in other games and some movies, complete with red armband symbols, raised hand stiff-arm salutes, and marching in line formations. The Hammer is after multiple fuel sources to power an ancient machine that will turn its normal human soldiers into world-conquering super soldiers. The first missions will have you running through the jungles of Costa Rica as Abby Chase, an archaeologist that specializes in demolitions who finds signs that the Hammer may be collaborating with one of her old enemies, Donovan Conrad. Next you will play as JC, an engineering specialist assigned to an oil rig trying her best to save hostages and open a path for Sydney to finish her part of the mission, all while disarming a few nasty bombs along the way. Third you will play as Sydney Savage, a top-tier sniper on the second half of the oil rig stages. She is tasked with turning back on the oil rig's cooling system while saving more hostages and investigating why the Hammer is there. You will cycle through these three ladies a few more times during gameplay. Silicon Valerie is the smart one and is only in cutscenes as a watchful eye / assistant at a distance member of the team. And lastly, Deuce, who was once a very valuable British agent, is the head cheese of the group and brings his knowledge of espionage to the fold. During gameplay, you'll be stuck as one of the playable agents, depending on what mission you are on, as swapping out team members is not an option. But not to worry, it doesn't matter who you play as, all of the women control like they just got out of bed, showed up for work on Monday at 11 a.m. while still nursing a hangover. When you first start moving from a standstill, they feel heavy and sluggish, and during movement you feel like you are about to lose control as their responsiveness becomes more sensitive. You have two types of weapon aiming, auto aim that will lock onto the closest enemy, or manual aim that will give you more grief than actual precision, as it is overly sensitive and will auto drift no matter what your settings are in the controls menu. If you can stick with it long enough to master the controls, you can run, jump, strafe, sneak, shoot guns, grab, do some quick time events, and maybe make it to the next mission to play as a new character. The easiest and most intuitive part of the game's controls is when you press the select button and bring up an inventory HUD, where you can swap weapons or equip game items like keycards or special devices. You can also enter a sub-menu that will show your current mission objectives and some personal details of the current agent. No matter how many mission goals you achieve on a stage, if you die, you start all the way back to the beginning of the current stage. If you run out of ammo for all of your weapons, you are screwed, as none of the women seem to remember any of their hand-to-hand combat training. Headshots will be the go-to attack for most of the game. Rescuing hostages on the oil rig before they are shot will be an exercise in willpower, as the auto-target will almost always pick the wrong bad guy. With all of the things the women can do, none of it is easy to pull off on the first few attempts when running into new challenges. Visuals for the game include the standard CG intros and in-between mission CG cutscenes with a few in-game engine cutscenes added in. Even with a few slowdowns here and there, the graphics are almost the best part of the whole game. Stages are much larger than expected, with multiple areas and sub-areas. The world textures and most of the bad guys are the standard copy, paste, and repeat, with a few neat graphical tricks tossed in every once in a while. Some interactive objects are outlined in yellow, some have a big red button, and some of the more frustrating ones are hidden in plain sight. The Danger Girls themselves are, as you can see, well animated, well endowed, and have a bad case of the PS1 butterface. Abby is almost like the dress-up doll of the group with her tight clothing. At one point of the game, she wears a see-through dress in freezing conditions. JC seems a lot more practical in her given clothing choices during her missions and feels mostly like a character and not a visual object. Sydney is in black leather, or maybe it's latex, complete with matching whip. The audio is good for the most part, with a few clicks and pops that keep creeping into the mix. Voices can be spot on, to not even close, to what the heck.
On your knees. Ew, a gun? Ew!
The weapons and other sounds, like the ambience of environments and footsteps from our cast of characters, are serviceable but not groundbreaking. The music can be repetitive in a few instances. Danger Girl was a game we wanted to like, but it has too many one-step forward, two-step back moments. Perhaps something was lost in the adaptation from comics to the game. We give Danger Girl a 5 out of 10. If you like this video, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to this channel. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Previously on D.A.T Co-op Gaming.